Now you really may sit down without having to look to your right and your left. Always good to be reminded that we are imperfect creatures in an imperfect world. And I suppose at the point of the confession, it's even more appropriate. But everybody comfortable now? Well, good morning to all of you. Thank you. I'm Tim Summerlin. I have the very good fortune to be president here at Schreiner University. And I welcome all of you students, trustees, faculty, staff, family members, members of the community who gathered here this morning. My thanks go to all of the seniors here serving in this baccalaureate service as liturgists or singers, and always, of course, to Ms. Kendra Delaney for her usual outstanding work as musical accompanist. I'm sorry he cheated you with Gloria Patri, but I think we're still going to be official anyway. Our baccalaureate service, which precedes commencement and the awarding of degrees, anchors this day in values affirmed in our mission statement, and I trust in the way we actually go about our work. Respectful of diverse beliefs, Schreiner University is nevertheless clear in affirming its concern for the spiritual growth of its students as a part of preparing for purposeful lives. May today's service provide us all with an opportunity to renew our commitment to those values found on the opening page of this program. Now, it is a special pleasure, certainly, to welcome one of our own this morning to speak to us, particularly one who has been such a pathfinder. Born and reared in Piedras Negras, Coahuila, Mexico, Ana Rosales possessed a very bright mind, capacity to learn, that was acknowledged by a mission group from Corpus Christi, which had come to Piedras Negras to construct homes. Thereafter, she came with, at that point, as a teenager, very little English to the United States as a student at the Pan American Presbyterian School in Kingsville, adapting to and succeeding in her new surroundings. She matriculated to Schreiner University, where she completed a bachelor's degree in psychology in 2004. Ana Rosales' exceptional qualities prompted us to recognize the need to create an ongoing relationship with Presbyterian Pan American School, resulting in the establishment of the Pan American Schreiner Agreement, or PASA, which has produced a consistent flow of fine students from that school to our university. Currently, I believe, 3 PASA participants or students at Schreiner. After Schreiner, Ana continued her studies at the Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary, earning her Master of Divinity degree in 2007. Since that time, she has worked as a community organizer in San Antonio, Austin, on education, immigration, living wages, and other social issues. In 2011, Ana married Salazar, whom she had accompanied to the Pan American School prom 11 years earlier. And they now live in Fort Worth, where she is discerning what her next calling will be. If I may be permitted a more personal reference, one of my strongest memories of this accomplished alumna is of the day that she came to my office to let me know that she was part of a group of students who met early in the morning for prayer, which she stated regularly included prayers for Schreiner's president. So it pleases me to introduce as today's baccalaureate speaker one so well equipped for both meaningful work and a purposeful life, is Ana Rosales Salazar.
Good morning. I am very honored to be here today. I want to thank Dr. Summerlin for this very special invitation. And I want to thank professors, parents, Schreiner University staff, and everybody who had a big, a small part in making today possible. And thank you very much for letting me be part of it. In class of 2013, whether you are like me, who had to work very hard to get a B, or like my sister, who studies at the last minute and seems like with no effort at all gets the B's, the fact of the matter is that you have made it. And we are all very proud to be with you today, to celebrate you, celebrate your effort, your accomplishment, your persistence. And I am very honored to tell you in person, congratulations. I remember my graduation like it was just yesterday. In fact, it wasn't until I started preparing for this speech that it finally clicked that I no longer belong to the recent graduates category, as I am only 1 year short of the 10th year mark. Maybe if Dr. Summerlin had not invited me to be here today, I might have said that my whole life, but I'm a recent graduate from Schreiner. So thank you for that. But it feels like it was just yesterday when I arrived on the campus, unloaded all my new things, met my new roommate, Lisa, from Belarus. And I remember not having any idea about what to major in. But it definitely didn't take me long to know that a business major was not for me. I went to one business class, and it really felt like I had to learn a whole different language. And I just started learning English 3 years ago, so it was too much at the time. So I decided to go for psychology, which I really loved, and it felt right for me. I also remember the embrace the community here at Schreiner provided for me and for my friends when we lost a dear friend in a car accident in our freshman year. And I remember how the community also embraced each other as we tried to swallow the terrible news of September 11th, when I had just gotten in as a freshman in 2001. I wonder how your parents trained you to think that you had no option but to go to college and get your degree. My mother used this: education is the only inheritance that I will leave you. So that way we knew we either got an education or we got nothing. And like for you, my graduation day was very special. Besides the fact that most of my friends and family came, it was a meaningful day because I had accomplished my mother's greatest dream for myself. And I felt very proud. I felt very accomplished. Even though 3 more years of school awaited me as I was going straight to seminary after graduation, I remember enjoying the fact that I was done. Maybe you can believe it. Little did I know that it was only a new beginning. Yes, I was done with college, but I was only beginning a new journey with new lessons, new challenges, new dreams. Today, I would like to take this opportunity to share with you how my graduation from Schreiner marked a before and an after in one of the greatest lessons I have ever learned, the lesson of compassion. I was born and I grew up in Piedras Negras, Mexico, with my mother and my younger brother. And as far as I knew then, we lived in perfectly normal circumstances. But looking back now, I understand that our circumstances were far from normal. My mother had to work very hard to provide for my brother and me. She worked up to 3 jobs at a time, not out of pleasure for work or ambition for money, but out of necessity to support my brother and me. In the morning, she worked as a secretary in a government's office. In the afternoon, she worked at a seafood restaurant as a cashier, which is the reason now I cannot stand fish, by the way. At night and during the weekends, she would sew uniforms for schools. While we were young, we were allowed to come with her to her jobs, but as we grew up, we preferred to stay home as the shifts got very long for both my brother and me, especially considering the fact that we had to sit tight and behave the whole time. One day, I remember my brother randomly asking my mother, "Mom, are we poor?" "No, we're not poor. What are we?" "We are just going through a difficult time." The truth is that we were not just going through a difficult time. We were going through a very difficult time. Even with her 3 jobs, basic things like education, a decent home, clothes, transportation, time to spend together as a family happened only with tremendous sacrifice on the 3 of us. Not to mention the things that were not available to us, like electricity, running water, family vacations. But these difficulties have never been enough for my mother to accept the label of poor. I have come to understand that for my mother, the big difference between being poor and defining our situation as a difficult time is that being poor for her meant that our difficulties would remain permanent. And she adamantly refused to accept that reality and to give in to such a definition of herself and of our family. And that is a big difference, because that's not what we were. Neither were our difficulties permanent, nor they defined her or our family. My mother was driven by 2 big dreams, that both my brother and I accomplished a college education, and that we had a home of our own. So education was never an option for us. It was our obligation. Whether it was cold or rainy, we went to school. And it did not matter if we had to walk to catch the bus. We were always on time. We always brought the best supplies to school, the best backpack, a new one every year, the best shoes. When it came to anything related to school, we never lacked one thing. She did everything that she possibly could to ensure that we had everything we needed to obtain the best education possible. She also dreamed that we had a home of our own. I remember our Saturday's activities many times included a trip to a big vacant space far out from the city. We would walk around and she would say, "One day, we are going to buy a lot here." When she bought the lot, we would go out there and she would say, "One day, we will have a home here." When we had a home, she would look out the window and say, "One day, we will have those 2 lots so that we can have a big patio." She is very content now with her house and big patio. I say that very easily, but accomplishing my mother's dreams was not easy. She worked very hard. But her greatest relief came when I grew Parkway Presbyterian Church in Corpus Christi came to Mexico to build a house for our family, the best gift we have ever received. This was a home that surpassed what we ever dreamed of. And according to my mother's calculation, it would have taken her about 20 years to build. But Parkway Presbyterian Church not only blessed us with a home, they also blessed us with the beautiful gift of their friendship. They would come to Piedras Negras every year. They would build a home for a different family, and they would take the time to come and visit us. We really look forward to the visit from Los Americanos, or the Americans, some of whom are here today, and I'm very honored. They would surround our house with their trucks full of tools and would pack our small living room. They usually came around my birthday, so we would share a cake and sodas, and we communicated through a translator or with signs. My mother was better at science, and my brother and I pretty much kept to ourselves as much as we could until we pretty much had no choice but to talk. These are some of my most treasured memories from childhood, because the time they took to come and visit us and the love they expressed every time they came made us feel very special. And just when we thought we could not be more blessed, the grace and compassion of our American friends blessed us with yet another gift. A gift that would open up a whole world of opportunities for me. They invited me and made it possible for me to come to the United States, learn English, obtain a high school diploma, and a bachelor's degree from Schreiner University. These gifts are treasures for me beyond value. Not only because now I know that my professional possibilities are endless, and because I have had experiences that before would have been only beyond my imagination, but also because this is how I learned the meaning of grace. The humbling experience of receiving something so meaningful when one has done absolutely nothing to deserve it or to earn it. And because this is how I learned the meaning of compassion, the ability to feel someone else's suffering as one's own, and to do what it is in one's power to take that suffering away. And because this is how I learned the power of loving my neighbor with no conditions, no prerequisites, no expectations. The day that I graduated from Schreiner, I felt very humbled at the way that I had been blessed, and I responded to such a blessing with the deepest gratitude. But unbeknownst to me, my graduation day marked the beginning of a journey in which I would learn that being grateful for my blessing was the proper response, but that I was meant to go a step farther. I was called to a lifetime commitment to embrace others with the same grace and compassion that I had received. A year before I graduated from Schreiner, I had signed up to go on a summer mission trip to Cuba through one of the campus ministry groups. I admit that I really wanted to go to Germany or some exotic place in Europe, but they told me that they really needed someone who spoke Spanish in Cuba. So, not really with the best attitude, but with the best of intentions, I decided to accept to spend my summer in Cuba. I really did not expect to be surprised. Given the difficulties of my upbringing and my Mexican roots, I expected to fit right in the community, and I did. However, the circumstances that I encountered opened my eyes to harsh realities of injustice. I struggled to understand the inhumane circumstances in which the elderly live the last stage of their lives, and the frustrations of young families concerned about their children's future. The hopelessness of young people with great talent, great dreams, and great limitations. I really thought Cuba would be an experience of the summer, but it was an experience that I could not prevent from coming home with me. So when I came back, I began to notice the injustice, not only in the first part of my own story, but also in my own country. The lack of opportunities, the unjust acts of oppressive employers, the inexcusable poverty in such a rich country as Mexico. And I also began to see the injustice here in the United States. And I began to struggle. I had no idea how to reconcile my own story of grace and compassion with a prevalent reality of injustice. You may find this humorous and may call it naive, but before this experience, I really thought that everyone who suffered at some point or another encountered grace and compassion like it had happened to our family. But with this experience, I began to realize that this was not always the case. A wake-up call for me happened in one of my seminary classes. One of my professors, who had served as a missionary in the Philippines prior to going to seminary, was telling a story about the hardships women suffered in that country. I confess that I don't remember the story, but I clearly remember the end of her story. In her very expressive and passionate style, she slammed her desk and looked straight at me and said, "That is not okay. That is not God's will." And that's when I began to make the connection between my story of grace and the injustice that I witnessed. God has blessed me so much so that I would bless others. On my graduation day from Schreiner, I was very thankful for my blessings. But I had yet to learn that it was now my turn to do unto others as it had been done unto me. And not just during a mission trip in the summer, but in a lifetime commitment to love my neighbor. To look at any time of injustice in the eye and say, that is not okay. There's a short story in Scripture that I think teaches how to do this very well. The story is about a man who, while walking down the street, was attacked by robbers. He was stripped of all of the possessions he carried with him, and he was left there, half dead. While he agonized on the floor, the story tells that a priest walked by. And when he saw the man, he crossed the street to walk on the other side of the road. Then another man walked by, and also crossed the street to walk on the other side of the road. And a third man walked by. And the scripture says that this man went to him, bandaged his wounds, poured oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." Class of 2013. The very fact that you are here today, part of this graduating class, shows the fact that you have received great blessings. I don't know each of you, but my guess is that you have a loving family who has done everything in their power to make sure this dream comes true. They might have even made sacrifices to make it possible for you to accomplish this. Or maybe like me, you have been blessed by the generosity of scholarship programs from Schreiner or other sources. And surely you have been blessed with an education that has given you much more than a bachelor's degree. An education that also gives you a clear message: you can do it. A message and an education that no one can ever take away from you. Today, you conclude your learning at Schreiner University. but you continue on a new journey in which now you are equipped with the skills that you will need to create the life that you want to live, the world in which you want to live in, and the society that you want to be part of. And today, you continue on a journey that gives you a new responsibility to bless others in the same way that you have been blessed. Now it's your turn. Will you build a life of compassion? Will you be a generation that stirs us to become the compassionate society that we need to be? In your own context, at work, in your neighborhood, and you go out to a restaurant, will you look at your neighbor and treat him not by the color of his skin, not by the car he drives, the clothes he wears, or the job he has, not by his religious or political convictions, but by the one thing you and he share in common, your humanity? And as you come across the reality of injustice, rather than crossing over to the other side of the road, will you be the one that stops? Will you be the one that looks at injustice in the eye and says, that is not okay? And will you show yourself the same grace? As people discover your talent and everything you have to offer, they might push you to think that you are a robot or a machine, that your worth is based according with what you can produce. But you're not. So if you get tired, get some rest. If you are sad because you have lost something dear to you, give yourself permission to grieve. Allow yourself to make mistakes, to fail, to doubt. You are a human being, and your worth is not based on what you can produce or the profit you bring to a company. Your worth is not based on your income, popularity, or lack thereof, the car you drive, or the status that a job or money may give you. You are a human being, and your worth is based on who you are as a person and as God's beloved son and daughter. But last but not least, will you surround yourself with friends that remind you of your true worth? Class of 2014, you are blessed. Now go 13. You are blessed. Now go to the world and be a blessing. It is your turn.